I am Greg Tompkins, and I am the agriculture agent for here in Cumberland County, Kentucky. Burkesville is our county seat. We're situated here on the banks of the Cumberland River. We are excited about some of the developments that we see here locally and the increased efficiency and opportunities in beef production. We've seen producers do a better job with selecting their breeding stock, using some of these cost share funds that we have. Kim bought this cattle farm and put a lot of facilities in place, and has been a very aggressive user of our technology. And she does a real job of receiving cattle and pays a lot of attention to the details on the front end. She's a model for some of our older guys to go by, and she works close with the veterinarian, she works close with the university, and she does a good job with the resources that she has.
Started with just 8 heifers that were already straightened out, didn't have a facility, got lucky, they didn't get sick. They grew, so then we thought, well, we'll buy them from the sale barn, and didn't have an order buyer or anything, and had heard about those things in cow college, but you know, really not doing it. I just heard about it, I didn't really understand it. So we bought some calves and they started getting sick, and at that point we had the round pen and the squeeze chute, and I started studying doctoring them. Then slowly I ended up hooking up with a person from one of the stockyards over there in Russell County, and he started buying cattle for me and took me under his wing, and I'd sit in the yard with him and he'd kind of tell me what he was buying, why he was buying, and we started out with some bulls and steers, and so I got it to where we could run load lots of cattle with my dad, and then that kind of ended, and now I'm in a totally different new direction since I'm running cattle and I'm getting paid on the gain. I guess that's the thing that was surprising to me going into it, honestly, was I didn't realize how much this business entails, how much knowledge. So I guess my goal this year, every year I kind of have a goal of what I want to learn or what I want to be better with, but I really want to learn more about the commodities market and some of those ways that people protect themselves by buying futures contracts. Well, the cattle got so high, and obviously I'm a small operation, and because I don't know how to protect them risk-wise, I didn't feel comfortable investing that much money without some sort of protection. And timing-wise, it just happened to where I was introduced to someone that was interested in putting cattle with someone, and they said they would do it on cost of gain, because I didn't have a lot of capital to work on or work with, and so the person that I'm doing business with is giving me an advance, so to speak, a per head check. So he pays me for 1.33 pounds a day, and that helps pay for my feed, and it gives me a little operating expense, and then they provided all the medicine, and that was very helpful. So I didn't have a lot of money I had to lay out myself. That was a big part of it. The other reason that I chose to run cattle with this person is because they've been in the business a very long time. I have a lot of respect for them. They're a leader in the industry. They have the same philosophy about cattle that I do. They want them to, you know, run as naturally as possible, have plenty of room. They want it to be more of a forage-based diet, which is what we do here. I start them in that 120-foot round pen. I'm lucky because I have lights. A lot of times they come at night, but I'm still able to observe them. That's very helpful to me. I highly recommend it if you have to get cattle at night. It's just because I've had to pull them and doctor them right when they come in. But anyway, they come into the round pen, and I usually drive my mule in there, and I come in with my dogs so they get used to her right away. And I put hay and feed out for them. I start with a starter ration, and then we put up quite a few square bales so I can put some good square, you know, just grass hay, and make sure they have fresh water. And then that way they start associating me with good stuff, you know. When I pull in with the mule, from the first second they see me, They see feed and hay, and you know, some of them are bawling and they don't know what to do with it, but then there's the ones that do, and they kind of teach the other ones to come over there and calm down. A lot of times I try to get in there and change their mind about walking the fence or getting upset. I might get on there after I put the feed out, and if I still have some running around screaming or carrying on, I might get on my horse and go out there and move it around a little bit, kind of get its mind off of being worried about being away from its herd mates and the other ones. That seems to help. I try to get them to where they're gentle, and when they're gentle, that's when I put them out. We'll usually process them within 24 hours of getting them, I would say 24 hours. And then we try to, if we get them all within maybe 5 days, we'll go ahead and let that group stay together. But if it's within a few weeks, I try to keep them separated, you know, after they're doctored and taken care of. One of the great things about that, though, is when that's what they call home. So if I have to pull a sick calf, they don't get upset because they think that that's where they want to be. I mean, even when we feed them in there, I have to go in there and ask them to leave because they want to just kind of lay around in there. We put in 3 Ritchie waters, 3 feed pads, and then cross fence, of course. So, well, I contacted the NRCS and applied 3 years in a row. So if anybody's thinking about doing it, don't get discouraged, because I did eventually get funding. I was able to cross fence, and it just worked out the way my land is, where there's a drain that runs through, and they'll fence off any water. And some people might be opposed to that because they think, oh gosh, you know, I'm going to lose that grazing land, but they allow you to put gates in it. You can flash graze it, so you're able to manage it, and then they're not tearing up the banks and causing erosion and causing organic matter to get in our water and pass it on down to the neighbors or whatever. They fenced off all my ponds, which I'm really happy about, because the cattle had almost destroyed one of them completely by getting in and out of them. And where they fenced off the ponds, they put in a water. Just recently, the last practice that we implemented was they fenced off my hardwoods. That was really great for my business, because I could turn those feeder cattle out, or the stockers, and they would not. Before, they could get up in those woods. It was a lot harder to get the sick ones up. They would go and hide in those trees. They allowed me to fence off points, and that's what we did. We'd have some points with these cedar trees, so that those animals could get out of the elements, get in the shade, or get out of the rain or whatever. And that has been very, very helpful. They put gates in so I can flash graze it when I want to. There's a little bit of forage that grows in those trees, but not too much, so I don't feel like I'm missing much by fencing those trees off. One of the things that I decided to do is I felt like when I fed it dead ends, the animals created a terrible mess. And so, since I feed a mule, and with buckets, I put the feed pads centrally located by the Ritchie waters within the pastures, and they paid to fence a 100 by 100 foot filter strip off the feed pad. The feed pad's about 100 feet long, it's about 30 feet wide, and they designed that so I guess you could close the gate and allow that land to rest and do its job with that manure and urine. But it has a gate. You can flash graze it. Right now I'm feeding a 14% grower ration. I was feeding a 16% protein, which sounds like a high energy feed, but we bucket feed so I can really manage how much we give them. And the bucket feeding works, and so I like it for so many reasons. I can't get lazy. I have to get out there, and I see them every day. I know the feed they're getting isn't moldy or wet or swollen. You know, it's in good shape. I can make sure there's, nothing in it. And then I can also really control how much I feed. I feed about 1 to 1.5% of their body weight in a supplement. And I switched feeds because the feed I'd been getting, it didn't seem the same, and it was quite a bit higher than so I dropped two points in the protein, but the overall feed, as far as I was concerned, was seemed pretty good, and it was real palatable. I haven't sent it off yet, but I actually do have about 4 samples from 4 different loads of feed to have it analyzed to see if what they say they're selling me is what they're selling me. And I also weigh it. I weigh the buckets empty at the feed store. I don't have a scale, but I weigh the buckets empty, and then I weigh the feed. And I do it almost every load just to kind of see if there's a variance there. And I was really surprised. I just started doing that. I was really surprised that the feed that I was telling you I fed 16%, it weighed 25 pounds. And the feed that I got that was 14% weighed 28 pounds. Another thing that I do that seems to be real important is I make sure there's a lot of extra bunks. I try to make plenty of bunk space. They can eat from both sides, and if I try to give at least 1 bunk per 10 head, and if I have some bullies in that group, I might even get an extra bunk out there. It seems to me to really make a difference on those weaker, kind of lighter weight cattle. They can get in there and eat. I've given quite a bit of thought to the beef cattle industry as a whole, and I might be unique that way, or maybe I'm not, but it's easy to be here on this farm and this hollow and have tunnel vision and be here doing my daily thing. I just recently came back from the NCBA. It's my 5th year. Every year I go, I wonder how I'm going to pay for it and if I should take the time off and go. Every year, I hem and haw and wonder if it's the right decision. And every time I come back, I say, boy, I'm glad I went, and that was the right decision. For a number of reasons. It keeps me current. It keeps my view. It broadens my view. You know, you meet people from different countries and people from all over this nation that have the same general worries and challenges and triumphs that we have here. They're just all a little different region to region. I like visiting with them. But I would think that the main thing that we as producers, we need to stay unified. Sometimes people that are in this business have a real independent nature, but I think we have to remember that we're interdependent and we have to rely on each other because there's so few of us doing it. And we're all related, you know, the row crop farmers and the beef cattle, and the hog producers and the chicken, we're all related. We're all in it together. And so I don't even mean just beef. I think that people that are in agriculture together have to have one voice. That's why I'm part of Farm Bureau, because there are a lot of farmers, and I hear what they go through and their challenges and worries. And if we don't take time away from our operations to go to these meetings and hear what's going on and staying informed, I really believe that one day our decisions will be made for us by people that are not in this business.